So a rough overview of Boxy SVG. So you can see it looks like this. This is what the homepage looks like. You just want to click launch the app. You are going to have to log in, and then you get a 15-day trial. So after that, I think it's $10 for a year, which I think is pretty approachable. So depending on how long it should be more than enough time to get your current project done, but it might be worth you investing in the future. So right off the bat here, we have our typical things you see at the top, right? File, save, export, all that stuff, edit, copy, paste, stuff dealing with the view, stuff with the objects, like to move them forward and backwards, put them on top of or behind, grouping and ungrouping, the typical things you would kind of expect. Shape will deal with when you select the shapes as a whole. You can do things like convert them to a shape or a path. Basically convert them to a path, which is handy. You'll see later on. Text, if you want to put text in there. Other ways of getting the tools, but you can also just get to them from there, and things to the windows here. On the left, you'll see these are all just these different panels that you click on, and it will give you different options for your object, whatever you're working on. So either the tool or the shape itself. So that's what you'll see over here. Sometimes you'll need to do that, such as like the layers can be useful. Okay. And then over here we have our tools. You can see it's all pretty limited and pretty clean, which makes things a little bit easier. So there's this, which is just the regular select. There's the edit, which you'll see the pan, but you can just, I guess spacebar doesn't work. Spline, so that will allow you to draw splines yourself, if that's something you're interested in doing. And there's other tools underneath this, so if you click, you'll see that they have different options available. You can try those if you'd like. Some of them are pretty neat. I don't want to get into all of them, though. There is also the freehand. Generally speaking, don't do that. It's not doesn't work super well. The blob brush is actually really neat. So basically, you draw out something like so. Just make sure it's filled in, or you can do not. And it will actually turn that into a vector, and then you can kind of manipulate it that way. Sort of like freehand, but instead of drawing a stroke, it will draw a fill. That's basically the difference between the two. So if you're familiar with Adobe Animate, this would be like the pencil and this would be the brush, which may or may not be useful to you. So to get to the components, I grab this one. To grab it as a whole object, you grab this one. So I'm just going to go ahead and delete that. Underneath that, we have shapes. I'm going to come back to these in a second. Then obviously you have text, text path, stuff with the view, and then the manual guide, which we don't need. Okay, so let me just go over the shapes here. So we have square, ellipse, and then if we click on this, you can see we have other shapes as well that you may find useful to you depending on what you're doing. And you can see there are some options. I'm going to go ahead and just go to the rectangle here so you can kind of see what some of the options are. So when I draw a rectangle, you can do this with me or not. I'm going to hold shift so that it stays as a square. Okay. Once I have that drawn, when I go over here, I'm going to go out of the layers. I can change my fill right here. So you can see like this will be the fill and this is the stroke. So the fill is the color on the inside, stroke is the outside. So if I go to the fill, I can go and make it red. Great. Or choose any color you want going through this. You can also do gradients if you want. So you can see here's some options for the gradients. Radial gradient, linear gradient. You can have no fill if I just want the stroke. Okay. So let's just go ahead and I'll just do a color. I don't really care. If I want this, I can go ahead and I can change the color of the stroke, right? So let's do green. See the stroke's different color. I can also change the width of it here, which may or may not be necessary depending on what you're doing. Now notice it's kind of sucking in, and that's because if we look, where are you? Offset. Is that the one? No, that's not the one. Sorry. It should be. Let me see. There's the width. Well, maybe they don't have that as an option. I thought they would. Okay. They also have different ways of, so see how this is a straight line? If I go like this, it's going to curve, and if I go like this, it's going to be cut off. These are for when they're ending. So if I drew a straight line, whether it ends at the end of it, wraps around it, or if it's curved on the end, so that's kind of up to you. I'm just going to leave that on square. But that will deal with the stroke, and you can have gradients on it as well, although I think that generally doesn't work super great. And that's kind of all you really need as far as these two are concerned. I'm trying to think of any of the rest of these. Not super handy. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is, let's just say we want to adjust these a little bit. I'm going to take the stroke down a whole bunch because it's like Gigantosaur. I'm going to click on the object. Okay, so if I have it just as the regular select, I can scale and move this around. I hold shift, it'll do a proportionate. I can also go this way and this way. Okay, but if I click on it again, you're going to see it's going to go into this mode. Okay, now from here, I can rotate it and I can skew it. Okay, so you can see, yay, and you can skew it both ways. Great. Now, if you click on it again, it's actually going to click, 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 click. There we go. I'm going to have to click a little bit quicker. It'll go into edit mode. This will allow me to round it. I always forget which direction it is. So if I go enough, it'll turn into this like pill-looking shape, okay? That's pretty cool. So that's nice. But let's say you wanted to create a shape, and you actually want to grab, if you're familiar with other vector software, usually you can grab the points on the inside. This is how you do that. It's pretty easy. What you're going to want to do is have it just selected in regular object mode, go back to shape, and you'll see convert, do shape to path. And now what you'll notice is, actually, let me undo that real quick. So see how it says rectangle, it says SVG, and then I have the rectangle selected. If I have an ellipse, see how it says ellipse, and if we do a triangle, see how it says triangle, and depending on which one I select, it will show them, okay? But when I go ahead and I do this, convert shape to path, okay, you'll see now it says path. And the difference is, if I click on it enough times, I actually get the actual vector. So if you're familiar with the Bezier handles and stuff, you can see you can get to them that way, which is pretty cool. And you can actually pull these as well, which is a little bit like a Adobe Animate. So that's kind of nice. And if you want to add some, you can just double click on it. I can convert these by double clicking. There you go. So it turns into a straight. There we go. And I can also just double click and convert them back out and then grab these handles. I would just suggest holding control to do one side versus the other. Or if you hold shift, you can see it do snapping. Just remember you have your modifier keys. You have your control shifts and alts, and those will generally change the function of what the object will do. Okay. So we can see we can start making different shapes here. So now that's pretty good. I can go like that. And again, if you want, you can use like your typical regular drawing tool here, right? And then I can take this and make a shape or whatever. So if you're used to using that style tool, try the different ones out here. There's a variety of them. They're kind of neat. So let's say I wanted to combine, let's get rid of this one. It's not particularly useful. Let's say I want to combine this and this. All you have to do is put them next to each other, select them both. So I click on this one, hold shift, click on this one, or you probably can click and drag over it. Yep. And then we'll just go to shape, and then you can see we can unite, subtract, intersect, or exclude. If I do unite, it's going to combine the two. So now, if I go into edit mode, you'll see, oh, they're now one shape. So you can actually build something by just sticking the shapes on top of each other and just unifying them, okay? So, but there's other ones too. So like there's subtract, where it's going to cut it out. So let's do it this way, and shape and subtract, and you can see it cut it out. So the order in which you select them, if I select this one, then this one, and do shape, subtract, it's going to cut that out. But if I go this one and this one, shape, and then subtract, it'll cut it out. So it makes a difference which way you grab it if you're trying to take something out or put something in. There's also intersect, which is going to keep the part that's intersecting. And there's also exclude, which will take out the part that's overlapping. Okay. And like I said, you can change the colors and everything over here. Hopefully that is enough to kind of get you started as to how it works. There's a bunch of other things inside of here as well if you want to try and play around with them. I don't want to make these videos too long. This is just for people who are pretty already decently capable of working in vector art and they want to try this out. I will make another video. There'll be another slide, and I will actually make a graphic, and you can just follow along with that if you feel like you want a little bit more instruction, a little bit more like I want you to show me how to make something specifically. But for those of you that just want to play around with it, you can probably just skip the next video and just make it on your own. Play around with the tools. Just figure out what the things are. I actually really like this piece of software. I'm going to purchase a subscription myself. Right now I'm just using the trial. Because I'm always trying to find free or, close to free options. So, yeah. Once you make something that you want, so let's say we just get rid of this, just for those of you that are not going to do the next video, all you have to do is you select it, and then you would just go to File, and you can export, and you can just export out once it comes up. Oh, here we go. The export right here. And then you can see we have options. We have PNG, JPEG, GIF, WebP, all of the things, HTML. So you would just want to do the generic SVG, and then you would just hit export, and it's going to show up as a download. You can also, which this is one of the things I really like, you can click on elements, and then you can actually see the path here. So you could just copy. I thought there was a button to copy. Maybe not. Okay. You can actually just grab this little piece here and just copy, or actually just Control-C to copy this piece. And then you can just paste it into your web page, and it will actually draw it up. But if you do save what you have here, so let's just export it. You can see it's going to pop up here. And if you see, if I click on it, it's going to show up. There's my graphic. But what I want to show you is this. If I go and actually open this up inside of Visual Studio Code, here's the code right here. You can literally just grab this SVG and copy and paste it into your page, and you can just use it that way. Or you can do what I mentioned earlier. You just link it like a normal image, which is really neat. So you can see the code here as well. All right. So once you get it done, I would save it as the SVG, and then you can just copy and paste that code into your thing, or you can import it in however you want to do it. All right. So good luck.